wanted to do a quick little video helping kind of review using your calculator when it comes to trig, because I think it's kind of been a while. You know, the biggest time that you guys worked with this is when we did SOHCAHTOA with right triangles, so I think we're a little fuzzy on it. So I just wanted to give a brief recap of using your calculator for trig functions. Trig functions. Okay, and the easiest example that we can think of is, say I ask you to tell me the sine of 19 degrees. All right, the sine of 19 degrees. This is as easy as it gets. You just go to your calculator, and remember, we're in degrees, so we need to make sure our calculator is in degree mode, and mine is. Okay, and then we just go ahead and type sine of 19. And there you go. And I'm sure I would tell you to round appropriately. So let's just say this is approximately 0.33. Okay, and that's as hard as it's going to get for some of these. Okay, say I asked you to tell me the cosine of 52 degrees. And we'll round to the nearest hundredths again. Well, then you're just going to go in your calculator, and we already know that I'm in degree mode, and you're going to do the cosine of 52. And I'm rounding to the nearest hundredth, so that's about 0.62. Okay? It can get a little trickier if we start using reciprocal trig functions. Okay, reciprocal trig functions. For instance, what if I ask you to give me the cosecant of 19 degrees? All right, the cosecant 19 degrees. Notice there is no cosecant button on your calculator. Okay, they only give us sine, cosine, and tangent. But we need to use the fact that we know that cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. All right, I know that the cosecant of 19 degrees is the exact same thing as 1 over the sine of 19 degrees. Okay, the cosecant is the reciprocal of sine, so the cosecant of 19 degrees is the same thing as 1 over the sine of 19 degrees. And that we can put into our calculator. We do 1 divided by the sine of 19. And boom, 3.07. Okay, the same thing could be done for secant. If I want to do the secant of, let's say, 78 degrees. Okay, there is no secant button on your calculator, so we need to use the fact that we know that secant is 1 over cosine. So the secant of 78 is the same thing as 1 over the cosine of 78. Go into your calculator. 1 divided by the cosine of 78 gives us about 4.81. Okay? So really, you guys have been doing stuff like this since maybe 8th or 9th grade. Okay, now we can step it up and use our reciprocal trig functions too, but those don't have buttons on our calculator. Okay, another thing, and I'm not sure if you guys have done this before, is actually using units when it comes to degrees. Okay, degrees is kind of like, you know, the big unit for angles. Okay, but we don't always have to have a whole degree, right? Sometimes you can have part of a degree. And so we actually have smaller units for degrees, kind of like how inches can be broken down into centimeters and millimeters and stuff like that. We can do the same thing with degrees. Okay? 1 degree is made up of 60 minutes. All right, 1 degree is made up of 60 minutes. So this is kind of like saying 1 foot is made up of 12 inches. 1 degree is made up of 60 minutes. And 1 minute is made up of 60 seconds. Okay, and to me, I actually find that this is kind of a convenient way to break up degrees, because degrees are, you know, they're angles, and angles come from circles, and clocks are circles. So, and clocks have 60 minutes and 60 seconds in a minute. So, I mean, I don't think it's that hard to remember. You just got to think of clocks. Okay, so 1 degree is 60 minutes, and 1 minute is 60 seconds. But what's really convenient about this is that your calculator actually already has a button that knows how to do things in degrees, minutes, and seconds. Okay, so if you look, well, first let me give you an example. Let me flip to the page that I want. Let's say I tell you that the sine of theta is equal to 0.2478. And I want you to find theta. We'll say to the nearest minute. Alright, to the nearest minute. So in this case, I wanted theta by itself. Right now my theta is stuck in a sine. When we talked about this, we're going to do the inverse sine of both sides. Because when you have an inverse function and a function, they cancel each other out. So now I'm left with theta is equal to the inverse sine of 0.2478. Which, this looks like a mess, but that's just something that you put into your calculator because we have an inverse sine button. So I will go to second sine, that gives me my inverse sine, and I have 0.2478. Close your parentheses. There you go. Now that's an approximation for theta. Now if you look, that's saying that theta, my angle, is like 14.3 blah 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 degrees. But the question asks you to round to the nearest minute. Now if you look, right above the apps button, it says angle. Alright, this is where all of our tools are for working with angles. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit second angle. And now I have all these choices. It's got a degree symbol. Choice 2 is actually the symbol for minute. Alright, minute looks like an apostrophe. But if you go down to choice 4, it says DMS. That stands for degrees, minutes, and seconds. So it will take your answer, and then if you go to this choice 4, it will convert it to degrees, minutes, and seconds. And there you can see that this is equal to 14 degrees, 20 minutes, and about 51 seconds. Okay, so obviously we know that this circle means degrees. 1 apostrophe means minutes, and 2 means seconds. Okay, then I wanted this to the nearest minute, so this is going to be 14 degrees, 21 minutes. Okay, if there are 60 seconds in a minute, remember you round up if you're more than half. So anything bigger than 30 means we're going to round up. Same thing when rounding to the nearest degree. Anything over 30 minutes, you're going to round up. Alright, let me do a couple of more examples just so we are in the feel of this. Let's do the sine of theta is equal to 0.5505. And let's say round to the nearest, we'll do 2 parts. We'll do to the nearest degree and the nearest minute. Okay, so the first part's not hard. We're just going to do the inverse sine like we always would. These cancel, so we're left with theta being equal to the inverse sine of 0.5505. That is what I'll put into my calculator. The inverse sine of 0.5505. And the parenthesis, I get 33.4 blah, 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 blah. So when we're rounding to the nearest degree, you can say, okay, well, 0.4 means I'm going to round down. Or we can go into our angle menu and go to degrees, minutes, and seconds. And if you look, I get 33 degrees in 24 minutes. 24 minutes is less than 30, so that means you're rounding down. Okay, so to the nearest degree is going to give me 33 degrees, 24 minutes. Oh, I'm sorry, that's to the nearest minute. Oops. Yep, okay, so for the nearest minute, if I look here, I've got 4 seconds. 4 seconds means I'm going to round down, so I'm going to stay here at 24. And then to the nearest degree, I should use a different color. I look, my 24 is less than 30, so I'm going to stay down. So to the nearest degree, I'm just approximately 33 degrees. Okay, so just different ways to use your calculator. Using degrees, minutes, and seconds is a biggie on the Regents exam. But we're really doing the same thing that you've been doing with your inverse trig functions. It's just that now we're using degrees, minutes, and seconds instead of using decimals.